Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you all about Demonology, Destruction, Affliction, Damage in single target. People have been asking a bunch, where are they at with the buffs that came into Destro, the nerfs to Demo, where's AF sitting and all this with the bug fixes to all the specs. Tested them all today on beta, and I want to talk to you all about it today, show you all the results, a little bit of combat testing here, and get some feedback on this stuff, because we need a bit more help in certain areas than I thought for specs outside of Demonology. So I want to start off here briefly with Demonology. We tested both Soul Harvester and Diabolus today. We're going to look at it in combat briefly here, and then I have logs to show you as well. Soul Harvester is still better. It's better than Diabolus by about 10k, very roughly. This is not the build we played. We played this build here, basically. Soul Harvester is better by about 10k, I'd say, give or take, over Diabolus and single target for Demonology. There's a lot of RNG with Soul Harvester right now. Whenever your manifested demonic soul spawns in, how long he's active for. If he spawns in, is active for, like, he procs twice, basically, or whatever. There is a significant difference in your damage. If it's an AoE, it is very RNG and very swingy. The nerfs that came in were to, I believe, him, Soul Swipe, as well as Dominion of Argus, nerfing all of the pet damage by 45%, which I don't think is a great nerf, but talk about it in a minute here, and go from there. Spoilers ahead, Demonology is still the highest playing Warlock spec in single target. So we're going to play Soul Harvester here. We'll open up briefly and just look at it. I have logs here to show you as well. So, like, if you are in single target, let me change specs here briefly. You're playing Siphon over Implosion, so you have those two cores on demand. You can open up by keeping them for your Apex talent, all that stuff, right? And go from there. So I need to have my Imp spawn in from Inner Demons here. When they do, we will begin. No potions or flask or anything for any of this stuff here. I'm playing double equip for Demo. Destro and AF will be on use, equip, but yeah. So you have one Imp, waiting for two. He's coming, I promise. I promise. I promise. There he is. Let's go. So we're going to open up here. Keep in mind you have shards being generated on pull. So we're going to do this. We'll just Tyrant here, and just go shards, hand, spawning first pet in, bolt, hand, bolt, hand, spawning second pet in here, two jailers. So we high rolled here a crazy amount. Jailer is the pet you want to see. It does a lot of damage, which I can show you right about here. Let me move out of the way. Jailer, Soul Barrage, does a tremendous amount of damage. It is the best pet out of the four you can roll. Inquisitor right there, second best. Shadow and Fire Mommies, they are like third and fourth best, and that's sort of unfortunate because I like seeing them spawn in. They're very cool, very thematic. Jailers are doing a crazy amount of damage. The Jailer itself likely did need that 45-ish% nerf. The Shadow and Fire Mommies did not. Their damage on average in single target is less than 2% each. On average for your Jailer, it can be 10 to 20% of your damage breakdown, and Inquisitors is like, it varies between like 5 and 7%, maybe 8, depending where you're at. There's a lot of variance in what demons you spawn and how much damage they do. So we'll Tyrant again here. We have 4 cores, hand, bolt, hand. Shadow Mommy spawned in, bolt, hand. And we'll look at it here in this meter as well as in logs. So we got Inquisitor, Shadow Mommy into Inquisitor. Next we have, Mr. Jailer's here with his very nice green, whatever that is called. And our last pet, actually we got an Inquisitor there. One more pet here, which will be maybe Fire Mommy. Perfect, very nice. So we'll stop combat basically about now, coming out of this portal, or this Tyrant, whatever. And very briefly, see the breakdown. We're sitting around 85,000 DPS, 86. A bit of swings there. We high rolled Soul Swipe, as you can see here. Our main source of damage being Soul Swipe, number 1. Soul Barrage being number 3, basically. Imps being number 2. All the way down there. Blaze, that is the Fire Lady. That is our Sacrilash right there. Shadow Nova, that is the Shadow Lady that spawns from our portal. That's Soul Barrage, that's Jailer. Mindseer, that's Inquisitor. I have logs here as well, but there is a incredible amount of RNG with Demo and the Apex talent right now. Here, this is all post-nerf, right? So here is Jailer, which the guy shooting the green beams out Soul Barrage, right? Which is right about here. So they cut his damage in half, basically, by 45%. They nerfed all these. This, And then I think this might be the high roll log. Yeah, so we have Inquisitor here, right? Yeah, perfect. Here's Jailer, here's Inquisitor, and here are the two Grand Warlocks, Alithis and Sacrilege. Thank God we nerfed those by half because they were doing so much damage. I don't know. The Apex talent needed a nerf. I think we all can agree with that, but we didn't. I don't think it was nerfed the right way. Unless Blizz wants like a lot of random RNG or swinginess to like this talent, where sometimes you get 3 Jailers and 1 Inquisitor. Sometimes you roll these 3 times and do no damage. I think we need to normalize the damage of this talent a bit. You can leave the Jailer a bit stronger than others, but having one pet be 17% of our damage because we sort of high rolled it a bit, and then the other 3 be 3%, and then less than 1%, almost a 0.5% each, is wildly not right. Like, I say this in a way of passion of wanting it to be like, you know, enjoyable. It's fun spawning in the big pets, and Dino feels great regardless, but like there's gonna be times you might spawn these 3 things 3 times, like 2 and 1, and then this thing. And what are you doing? Like 1/10 of damage you're doing if you spawn 3 of these things? That's not really where you want to be. You can see like we high rolled this too. We had like 2 here, 1, I think maybe 2 here and 1 there as well. So we definitely high rolled Jailer there. That's RNG, right? And even pound for pound, 1 Jailer versus 1 Inquisitor, 1 Grand Warlock, Alithis, and 1 Sacrilege. Jailer is still way up here as far as power is concerned. So normalizing that, I think, is important. At the same time, we have Demonic Souls here, which is also a decent bit of RNG. I have another log here where I was playing Diabolist here. You can see, I mean, like there's like Grand Warlock and Inquisitor here, right, and there's Jailer because you high roll these more often. So like there is like high roll and low roll variance to this, right, comparing the Apex talents. But when it comes to Demonic Soul, this thing, if you high roll it, for example, it was active like I mean, for what, probably about like 40-ish% of my overall uptime here, give or take. It's a lot of damage. There's been times it's been active like this, basically only here at the end of my like test, and just inactive the whole time here too. Sometimes it procs twice over 4 minutes, and if it does, the damage is just nowhere near as good. I mean, obviously, but like there's so much RNG to it. If it procs in AoE, it's crazy. If it procs in damage amps, it's crazy. And if you high roll procs, it just does a lot of damage in the first place. I don't know how you reel that in, because like obviously there's RNG to it. That's how the talent's built. Like it has an increasing chance to proc, but sometimes when that increasing chance to proc is still low, it procs, and then it just procs again and again and again, and just sort of spirals. So I don't know if there's some way to normalize that, but there's a lot of RNG to Demonology. That being said, I do think Demonology is still pretty strong, and I don't know where like the other strong ST classes landed. It still very well might be the strongest single target in the game. It's very strong right now, and a lot of RNG to it, but the cool thing is that if you've enjoyed playing Demonology for the past few weeks and all that, or even like all beta, it's still there. The same version of it, and it's still very fun. So it is currently Soul Harvester. I've been playing this build here. Might change a bit. Who knows? I don't know. But yeah, Demo for lock specs and single target is number 1. When it comes to destruction, I will say I was surprised at how good Destro is in single target post buffs both times. So we've played a handful of different builds here. The build I landed on in testing at the very end of today was actually this with Diabolist. So you might be wondering, why are we playing Shadowburn and no Fiendish Cruelty? This thing just sort of sucks. It's being real. You're playing Shadowburn, you're playing Conflagration of Chaos, and you're playing a Mastery Point here over Fiendish Cruelty, and you're not playing this. I tested with a combination like this. I tested with a combination like this, and like this, putting us here. I think Conflagration of Chaos is undervalued. Looking at logs briefly, let me shift back to the build I want to play here. Conflagration of Chaos is actually pretty strong post conflagrate buffs both weeks. This is a lot of data here. I'm going to try and zoom in a bit for you guys. But so basically this test here, we're playing a build with Shadowburn, Fiendish Cruelty, giving you a chance to proc Shadowburn outside of that execute range, and Conflagration of Chaos. Conflagrate was 11% of our damage. We played a build here without Conflagration of Chaos and no Shadowburn, and it was 5%. Average cast 27k, average here 58k. Guaranteed to crit, all the above. Conflagration of Chaos adding a lot of value to it. As you can see, guaranteed crit chance 100%. The damage output here of this test with Conflagration Chaos also was, I felt, a little bit better. If you break these down, separate them, you can see like, how do I do this? Like, I just kind of separate this. New tab to the right. How do I get rid of this? Dude, I don't know. All right, here. I don't know how to do this. How do I break these up? Move tab to another window. Perf. Didn't work. I got an idea. Perfect. There it is. There's conflict. So this is conflict rate right here. Basically, without Conflagration Chaos being 5.3%. I don't know how to break these up, man. But you get what I'm saying. Conflict rates double, about 11%, give or take. 11.1 versus 5.3. I'm sure there's some easy way to do it. Someone's gonna yell at me in the comment section about it. I'm sorry. Separate views. Whatever, I don't know. But point being, Conflagration of Chaos is good. So when it came to like playing the build, we ended up going something like this. Now, the reason we're playing Shadowburn and not Fiendish Cruelty is because Shadowburn costs 1 shard, instant cast, and does about the same damage as a Chaos Bolt. Bolt does 25k. This does 12k. If you're playing Conflagration, now we played this build, sorry. It doubles the damage because it crits every time, right? So 12k turns into 24k. Roughly, right? The big difference here, Shadowburn's 1 shard, instant cast. Chaos Bolt, 2 shards, cast time. Every time you cast a Chaos Bolt or a Shadowburn, you get a proc of Embers of Nihilum, which is a guaranteed Ember. 100% every time, whether it's the same damage, whether you cast 1 Shadowburn or 1 Chaos Bolt. It's just literally a shard spending event, basically, right? I think Rain of Fire is 60% damage. These are 50 each, respectively, but you get that damage event. Now, when you enter execute range, and you're guaranteed, I mean, this is like spammable, basically, right? And you're guaranteed crits every time a Conflagration of Chaos. Outside of casting Infernal, with Crashing Chaos, I'd assume you're spamming Shadowburn all the time, right? It makes sense. I'm gonna cough. Okay, coughing attack over. But yeah, so Shadowburn just gives a lot of value to execute by proccing this for 1 shard, instant cast versus Bolt being 2, as long as you're not trying to consume stacks of Crashing Chaos. I think we should add Shadowburn to Crashing Chaos, but if I cough again, I swear, I'm gonna get pissed. But I digress either way. It's in a spot where it looks to be pretty good and execute regardless, and here we are. So besides that, playing Shadowburn, Embers, or sorry, Soulfire, Embers, Overlord, all this stuff here, and we'll look at it briefly in combat. So let's say we're heading into combat, get my pet out here, unmute my game, and start up here. We're gonna kickstart our damage with a Soulfire, oh, we change trinkets. We're going to wait and then kickstart our damage with a Soulfire. Very cool. The damage output that I saw playing this build, which once again, we cannot push this into execute while my voice is going. This time is going to be at full health the whole time, right? But you have to factor in, like, we're going to gain a bit more damage to execute with Shadowburn. It is what it is. Can't do it here, but the damage we saw with this build was around like 73k. Which is a good bit higher than I thought it would be, around that 330, 340 mark. So let's say we're heading in, we're going to kickstart our damage here, put our Infernal down, pop our Trinket, and then go in. There's Smolder on, very cool, very nice. Conflagration Bolt, and watch the burst damage here as well. The burst damage was surprisingly higher than I thought. I hit like 112k, like in larger openers. I guess it varies a bit, I don't know, but I hit like 112k, 115k before, which was surprising, but like at the same time, it's consistent damage as well, or at least semi-consistent, because you're playing Diabolist here, so your minute and a half Infernal basically will sync to your Veilgore's Final Stare, being a minute and a half trinket every time. I'm not a huge fan of the minute and a half Infernal, like, talent in general, but when it syncs to your trinket and things, when you're playing Diabolist, it feels pretty good, because you have pets spawning in every, I don't know, 10, 15-ish seconds. It doesn't feel that bad. Casting Soulfire on CD will spawn in Smolderons. If your Soulfire crits your opener and things, your Smolderon, it does big damage and all that, you can hit 112k in your opener burst rise, right? But you can see, like, it's sustaining a relatively similar number, around like 73, 74k. It'll drop a bit between like larger CDs or your Soulfire, but it's not dropping off like AF does outside cooldowns, or like what Demo does outside cooldowns, right? It's still around that general vicinity. Look, I mean, I have Infernal in 15, I'm sitting here at, you know, 73k. So we're gonna have resync here on Veilgore's and Infernal coming up. We're gonna probably cast Soulfire and then go into Infernal, but regardless, the consistent damage output is like, I'm surprised. And part of that is because they buff fillers a good bit too, which is a bit more consistent, right? So cast Soulfire here, Infernal Trinket, start casting bolts. Bolt, Ruination, Conflagrate, Bolt, Bolt again. Just keep cranking. 74k, 75k. I'm not bursting like 100k when I pop my CDs a minute and a half into the fight, but there's still a bit of burst damage there with the Trinket pairing up, and it's just consistent damage. Now, for those that are saying, oh, I don't know, I don't want to play Destro next tier, all this kind of stuff, this and that, don't worry, I don't want to either. I do think there are a handful of fights coming up next tier, though, that are good AF or Destro fights, and you'll probably play one of the two likely on them, depending which one's tuned better at this point. Vilgorn, Ezreal is a big one. Nexus King is a big one. A couple other fights offer potential good cleave profiles for AF and Destro, but I mean, we'll see where it lands. You can see we're sitting here around the same number almost the entire time. It's not even changing much anymore. It's around 74k, right? Like, it's pretty stable. So if we stop here, right, looking at the breakdown, Chaos Bolt up there a good bit. Leave combat, yeah, 32%. Incinerate 14, Conflagrate 11.7, guaranteed crit chance. Diabolic Gaze right here. Echo Sargeras around 4.5, but keep in mind, when you reach that sub 20% phase, you're going to be able to spam Shadow Burn over and over and over with every shard, right? Which you'll probably do over Chaos Bolt, barring if you have your Infernal down and you have Crushing Chaos stacks, which gives a guaranteed proc of Echo of Sargeras. So a bit of execute damage there. Shadow Burn's going to hit for roughly about the same damage as Chaos Bolt, barring the bolts being buffed by Crushing Chaos. So you're going to see a bit of a bump to that damage execute. Not as much as what AF will have likely, but it's still a bit of damage. And honestly, I was surprised it was that high. I'm not saying it's like too high or it's like excessive or anything, but I will fully admit I didn't think it would be that high. But I don't think many have played with this build or experimented with it a whole lot, but well, here we are. So the last thing we'll look at here is Affliction, and I will give you the unfortunate news about Affliction. The average output I saw for Affliction was about 63,000 DPS. So I have a chart here from earlier, and once again, this is my own testing. You can do your own if you want, whatever. Demo about 82k. This is probably a little low, probably about 82, 84, give or take. Destro, about there, 3 different builds. This is the last build we played, which is the best one. We played AF with Drain Soul, no Malefic Grasp, and then Drain Soul with Grasp, and both did about the same. This is also without Death's Embrace, Drain Soul execute value, whether it's Drain Soul or Dots being amped by Death's Embrace, so there is more to that. AF's execute is stronger than Destro or Demo. Demo doesn't have much in general, or really any at all, but like point being, we didn't have that here. That was the full health, so it's hard to like say, hey, this is going to be like a gain of X amount of DPS, right? But so keep that in mind when looking at this. But if you're Blizzard and watching, I think Affliction needs help. I think it needs... So I don't think AF needs like AoE buffs. It doesn't need an aura buff. I'll take it, but no. I think like when it comes to C damage and like AoE damage and like the profile you want in plus in those larger pools, I think it's pretty good. Right, your Apex talent, if it procs, does cleave damage, Seed with Sow, and Patient Zero, they all work pretty well with Harvest. Like, they work well together, right? When it comes to single target, though, we're talking about this for a little while now, and it's even more prevalent or relevant now after, like, the Soul Harvester nerfs 2 weeks ago that hit both AF and Demo. We need help in single target. I think we need to come in and buff single target effects, and I think the frontrunners for that are like Unstable Affliction, Drain Soul. You can buff Dark Glare probably too. It doesn't really do much in general now in like single target. You can buff Agony or Corruption, which like there is some relevancy in AoE to them, but I think coming in and buffing like legit UA needs like a pretty big buff for like 25%. I could see a 25-ish% buff to UA, maybe like 20 to Drain Soul, 15 to Dots. I mean, I didn't run the math on it, but it probably means a lot. We also probably need to buff Malefic Grasp, which also is indirectly buffed by Dots getting buffed because it causes those Dots to like flare up and do 30% of their damage when you cast Grasp. But Grasp itself is not very good. Without Dark Blur extension, things on Dots, it's clunky in your opener. It doesn't feel worth playing. Most aren't even playing this. Most are playing a build like this with no eye contract because you don't need longer Dark Layers for Grasp. It's like this. And honestly, this build seems to put out the same amount of damage. I think Grasp build's a little bit better, but not by a crazy amount. And when looking at logs, honestly, like the damage that Grasp does, which is right here, it's 6%, right? 6% UA damage from Grasp is 1.8, Corruption's 0.46 and 0.2. This is terrible. This is really bad. This is really bad. We could buff Malefic Grasp in conjunction with like Drain Soul as well. If you buff Drain Soul, you buff Grasp, probably, right? Maybe you make the modifier 60% or 50 on Malefic Grasp, something. Buffing dots and also buffing the modifier on Grasp directly could do that. But like, this is abysmal, man. Like when it's supposed to be your big, like, I'm hitting this button, like nuking the target down during my Dark Lair, it doesn't. It's rough, man. Grasp itself is beating out the dots it's flaring up when you're stacking them all, right? This needs a bit of a retooling, I think. And like, yeah, it might seem like, oh, but Grasp is 6%, but like, to get this value of 6% in Grasp, you're playing Eye Contract for Dark Lair, which doesn't really do a whole lot. You're giving 5 seconds more on Dark Lair, which is like what, 1.3%. You're also playing Malefic Grasp itself, right, versus Contagion, Sacrolash, and like this damage here, you're replacing Drain Soul with Grasp. Would that window of like grasping be 6% for Drain Soul? No, but it wouldn't. It's not a raw 6% gain, right? So Grasp might be a little bit better, but we need some Affliction needs some help. Unfortunately, I would love to play AF next tier, and like we haven't had an AF tier in ages, man. We've played AF, maybe a couple fights here and there, but playing AF as the main spec would be so sick. It's one of the big overhauled specs. The expansion, it's super fun. I'd love to play AF, man. But even putting that aside, putting my own bias aside, like, I think we need to probably come in and buff dots, buff UA. I mean, you can give it the sweeping buffs of buff UA, buff Haunt, buff Drain Soul Shadow's Embrace, buff Dark Lair damage. You can buff Agony or Corruption. Honestly, all those being bumped up could probably be a thing. But I don't think you aura buff it. I don't think you need to buff like Seed or Dark Harvest or anything. Fatal Echoes feels pretty rough too. It could probably be a higher chance, like 15 or 20. As a capstone, feels pretty rough. It's basically 1 every 10 UAs, which is like pretty awkward. But it needs some help, I think, at this point. But regardless, let's open up and look at it. So get our Succubus out, which is already out, never mind. Just open up here, right? So you're going to precast a Haunt into a UA, Agony, Corruption, big Dreadlord there. Dump a couple more UAs here. Then go Dark Lair, Trinket, Harvest here. Watch your stacks of Nightfall there so you don't overcap. Cast a Grasp here. Try and get a few more Grasp off, or UAs off. Grasp again. Have to refresh my Agony because it's falling. Same with my Haunt here. A couple more UAs. Roll these. Don't overcap very much on that. Nightfall's here. I know this is all squished together. It broke. It is what it is. And you're just like trying to get max Grasp value here while weaving in dots. Weaving UAs, casting Grasp. Weaving UAs, casting Grasp. Which feels weird without Dark Lair extension. It's a bit worse quality life-wise, but whether it's Drain Soul or Grasp there, you're typically following a pretty similar playstyle, right? Besides that, you're just maintaining UAs when you can, going to Harvest here because off CD, maintaining Cascading Calamity, just going from there. But look at the damage output here, right? Like 73k give or take. We're coming out of major CDs here, right? This is actually a little higher than what I saw in the first place, like coming out of burst damage testing earlier, but still, it's going to drop off a bit here, right? It's like, we'll keep draining, doing whatever. We're still a minute from Dark Lair. A couple UA procs, a couple of Dreadlords are decent, but we're already dropping a bit lower than what Destra was doing. Refresh Haunt here, we're just dropping. Just dropping. We got 3 Dreadlords there, we're just dropping a bit. A couple Nightfalls are okay, but I'm channeling a Drain Soul Nightfall there, and I drop 1,000 DPS. Like, we have Dark Harvest here, we're at 65k, we'll Harvest again. Catch that. Put up some UAs, but I'm just watching my damage fall, right? Dreadlord proc's nice. Dump 5 UA. Put up 5 UAs. Double Nightfall proc, and my damage is just, it's dropping. It's like going up a little bit and then dropping. I just don't think like UA is powerful enough. It feels like just the spec itself is just not powerful enough. This is about 8k behind where Destra was, and it's actually been a pretty good pull for procs with Nightfalls and Shard Instabilities and everything else here. We're coming up on Dark Lair right now, so I'm going to refresh this, roll a couple UAs, like 64k going into this Dark Lair, roll a couple UAs. We'll Dark Lair, Trinket, Harvest here, we're at 64k still. Roll a UA, dump a Nightfall, or dump a Grasp, I guess. Roll more UAs. Watch my damage here, though. I have 4 UAs, 5 UAs. Let me Grasp. I'm climbing like maybe 1,000 DPS per grasp there, but I have like 5 UAs rolling, and it's like a major dump window. I barely hit 70k. Plus, this test was pretty good for procs, and I'm still like 4k below what Destro was sustaining. Like sustaining, right? I've seen AF like on average sitting around 64k outside cooldowns, so right around like I got a minute or so on Dark Lair left kind of thing with average RNG. It's just it just needs buffs. I think you just need to buff like its single target elements, like UA. I mean, the bigger ones you're gonna forego agony and corruption. Like, maybe not buff those. Buff UA, buff haunt damage, buff Dragon Soul Shadows and Shadow Bolt. You can buff Dark Lair damage. You can buff haunt damage. Maybe buff Fatal Echoes. You can even buff like your Apex Talent a bit, but just buff like these more single target elements. I'm not against the aura buff, but I think like our AoE is probably pretty solid and plus actually with like Soul Anathema, seed damage and all that. But I think the Soul Harvester nerf that came in a few weeks ago that was for Universal Soul Harvester over nerfed AF a bit, and you can see it in the single target. Demonology with Soul Harvester was ahead by a good bit, and it still is ahead by a decent bit now. But the week before the Universal Soul Harvester nerfs came in, they buffed a lot of Demo Soul Harvester talents specifically. None to Affliction. It was like ones that only modified Demonology Soul Harvester. But a week later, we got Soul Harvester nerfed universally for AF and Demo, which I get. Soul Harvester AF is doing pretty well, but the bigger nerfs there should have been reversions, I think, of the Demonology Soul Harvester buffs that came in the week before. I think AF got a bit over nerfed maybe, and even in general, AF's single target was a bit of a concern before then. It's a pretty large concern now. So I think hopefully Blizz comes in and buffs AF's single target, whether it's through UA, other effects, or whatever. But UA Spender is back. It's super sick. It feels great, but it feels like Malefic Grasp and UA are pretty undertuned and probably could use a bit of help. So yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching. As far as plus is concerned, really quickly, just watching at this point, you get a little tidbit of extra info here. As far as plus is concerned, Demo's the best, followed probably by AF and then Destro. I haven't tried Chaos Bolt Destro. It's probably still pretty decent, but I think AF is overall better in plus than Destro. I think Destro loses more single target. I know it loses more single target than AF does when trying to play like the M plus build. Plus you're playing Hellcaller, and you know Hellcaller's gross. Unless you're playing Diabolus, and that's weird. So Bolt Destro build for Diabolus and plus is a little funky, but maybe we'll play with it more this weekend. So that's that. And yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Wraps it up. Hopefully help clarify if you guys were all 3 specs are at in single target. We are getting very close to release. Early access. Both, honestly, at this point. But it's important to keep in mind that Blizz is going to be tuning things through early access, through release, through the first 2 weeks of the game coming out, probably through Heroic Week, honestly, because keep in mind, we have a Heroic Week for the raid again. So a lot of potential chances for buffs, hopefully sooner than later so we know what's up, but I want to make this video as soon as I could for the nerfs coming in and tuning coming in so we know where things are at. And yeah, hopefully gives y'all a bit of a better perspective there. If you guys want any add-ons or profiles, whatever I use, links to my site up here, as well as the Discord, or you can get all that for free, all kind of stuff. And a massive thank you to my supporters on Patreon. Like always, y'all, for all support. Thank y'all greatly. Million times. We greatly appreciate it, guys. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here as well as down below in the description. I also want to mention that we are getting pretty close to early access, which means we're gonna have guides coming out for AF and Demo and Destro. A couple other videos for them too, probably a leveling video, which is always fun. I like making leveling videos, and yeah, well, those videos should be coming out, like the guide ones, probably the 2 or 3-ish days leading up to early access. Those all should be out soon. Keep in mind, if you want up-to-date builds, my website has them. That's that. So thanks for watching, guys. GG, GN, and I'll see you later. Peace.